Well, we're live. We're here with Brady Sale, and Brady's a friend of mine. And I thought tonight we might be able to just chat about preparedness, but come at it from the angle of, more of kind of a personal protection angle. And, you know, we're from the United States. One of the things that we have as a benefit to us is that we have the Second Amendment and the ability to obtain a firearm and protect ourselves with it. Brady's somebody who's pretty knowledgeable on the subject, done a lot of training in that regard, and I've trained with Brady, and really knowledgeable. However, not everybody has access to that, and so we're going to cover a lot of different things in this discussion tonight. So first, just want to let Brady, let us know who he is and what do you do, man?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Brady. I am I'm in heavy equipment and construction and trucking. That's our family business, and been doing that since I was a little kid. But when I was 17 years old, I had an accident with a handgun and put a nice gnarly wound into my hand with a 9mm handgun. And that started this revolution of, hey, maybe I should get training on that. And from there, I started doing training and going all over the West Coast and even to the middle of the country, looking for training and people that could teach me these things. And through that, I got a couple jobs teaching concealed carry permits in my state and local counties. And then from there, I got a job at a really cool firearms facility called Thunder Ranch under the tutelage of Mr. Clint Smith. I worked there for about 3 years solid, and then had to come back home for family life. I kind of missed my whole first year of my daughter's life, which was kind of a bummer, but had to pick the priorities up, and that's kind of how it went. But in that 3 years there, I really learned a lot, and I've continued training with different entities all across the country, and try to hold myself to a pretty high standard as a civilian. No law enforcement or military background, but I have got to train with all those fine folks. And now I just kind of go to day, keeping the family business going, and train as much as I can on the back end. So that's kind of me.
Yeah, right on. How often do you wind up training, and I mean, really, what importance do you place upon the training that you do? I mean,
Yeah. So, well, I think we all have a misconception of what we might be able to do in a fight. I think that's a problem that comes with a lot of men. It's a masculinity issue. So I think one thing that we need to understand is that we're not going to rise to an occasion. We're only going to default to our level of training. Now, that training is dictated on what you decide to train on and how hard you decide to train. So I wouldn't expect to go run a 20-mile or 30-mile race right now, because I haven't trained for that. But an altercation with a handgun, I have trained a whole lot on, and studied and been under a lot of great schools, and I practice with that. So I hold myself to a very high standard. I shoot generally about twice a month right now. I used to shoot every single weekend, but with ammo prices and stuff now, it's kind of hard. But I hold myself to a high standard with dry practice as well. But yeah, you're not going to rise to the occasion. It's kind of like owning like a fiddle or something, and then thinking you're going to play a concert one day and never practicing with it. You're just not going to rise to the occasion. So it's not like the movies or anything. You really have to practice with this stuff to where it's ingrained into what some would call muscle memory. I think it's just having the skill set ingrained into your own knowledge base and then building from there. I think that's a very, very big thing. And a lot of people kind of overlook it and just focus on the guns themselves and being the thing that will save them. But really, it's the skills that are going to keep you alive. And that's what I tend to focus on. I'm really not a gun guy. I like guns and stuff, but I enjoy the actual art, the martial art of training with a gun. It truly is a martial art that has to be practiced in order for you to actually own that skill set. So
yeah, that's a very important point, really, to bring up on any of this. I think that a lot of people in the homesteading, preparedness, prepper, whatever you want to call it, space, everybody's got a different mindset. And even people who wouldn't say that they're that per se, I'm not a prepper or whatever. Everybody prepares to some extent in their life for certain things. And I really think that personal protection should be of utmost importance for everybody to think about. I mean, you're the person who's going to, you know, be the first responder to your own issue.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
should have a plan. You should be able to at least articulate in your mind how it is that you're going to defend yourself, because ultimately, you know, like you said, you're only going to rise to the level of the training that you've been receiving. So
Mhm.
super important.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, that training in itself, I look at it like this, like training is basically I go to a training class and training is teaching me what and how to practice at home. That's what training is in my mind. So if I go to a 3-day class or a 2-day course with a well-known name in the industry, I'm going to download his training module and then put it into my practice sessions. And I'll pick and choose from those and stick with the curriculum. There's certain things that I'll pick that I like, and there's certain things that I'm like, I don't really want to practice. I don't think that's applicable to me and my own. But just having the ability to defend yourself, either that be with your hands and your feet or with a tool, that really just comes down to you wanting to not be held to the whims of other people. That to me is the most important thing. If someone comes to tell me that they want me to do something and they're ordering me to do it, I now have an option to say no, and that's really really big to me. I want that sovereignty, and I want to be a free man, you know, and that's really where I look at that from.
Yeah, 100%. You know, a lot of people, I guess, think about preparedness as far as from a weapon standpoint. How are you going to defend yourself in your home? What are some of the things that maybe you think about, and maybe some of the things that people who hadn't given it a lot of thought might consider, just as a, you know, hey, maybe you should be thinking about this.
Totally. Well, your home's your fortress, right? So you can set it up any way you want, and you know it better than any building anywhere in the world is your home. You're spending the most time there, right? So you can set it up where it can really be advantageous to you, especially if you're building a new home. You can set it up where all the bedrooms are on one side of the house, and you have a choke point, things like that. There's a lot of tactics that can come into actual house building and geometry and things like that. But for me, I have a firearms. I have firearms set up in like hidden spots, like shelves or something like that, that can open up. I can get a shotgun out or a handgun or what have you. I almost always have a handgun on me at home in a fanny pack if I'm just being comfy, because I don't generally think if someone broke in my front door at this very moment, I have a firearm on me now to be able to protect myself. But if I was just hanging out with the kids, that's where people get you. And the really good criminals will come during the day when they think no one's home, but the really bad ones will come at night when they know you're there. So you just kind of have to be prepared. But yeah, setting up a house, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Doesn't always have to be gun related too. Having fire extinguishers in your home, you're 3 times more likely to burn alive in your home than you are to get into some kind of confrontation with a firearm or having to defend yourself. So, but a fire extinguisher is a great way to defend your family and your home. You got this white foam you can spray in the guy's face. You can hit them with the big red can, hang it, swing it by the hose and hit people with it. I mean, it's a great defensive tool that is readily accessible to anyone throughout the world. Anyone can really get a fire extinguisher. And it's something that I think a lot of people put in the corner and don't think about as something that could be defensive, but it definitely is. And I don't know if you've ever been sprayed around with a fire extinguisher fluid or stuff, but that stuff's terrible. It makes you cough, and it's no bueno.
Yeah, it's like, we're talking about firearms, but we're also talking about home defense, because everybody has a domicile. Everybody has a place where they retreat to sleep at night. And that's where you're going to be the most vulnerable, quite honestly. It's it really kind of boils down in my mind to just situational awareness, being aware of where you are and at what time you're there, and then just doing the very simple things to protect yourself. One of the things that my wife and I started doing, and we didn't do this for many years, because we had kids in the house, and, the doors are always opening and closing and people are coming in and out. But, now that it's just the two of us and we've really kind of keyed in onto more of our vulnerabilities, we decided, like, hey man, we should probably be locking the door when we come in. So that's one of the things that I do, like, religiously. In fact, we lock each other out of the house all the time. She'll go out and do something outside, awesome. And I hear her knocking on the, let me in. But that's just a very simple thing that anybody could and should be doing, because when you're in your house, you should be safe. And there's a channel I want to mention, and I know you're aware of it, but people may not be. It's called Active Self-Protection, and
Yeah, they're awesome.
on Korea's channel, and it's a great channel. It's on YouTube, and I watch it. I subscribe because it's just like it brings to attention that there's bad people out there. You know, we go through life with this like a normalcy bias. Oh, it has never happened to me, so it'll never happen to me, right? But when you see it happening to ordinary people every day in their own home, right? They're sitting there, and all of a sudden, dudes come running in with guns and like either shoot them dead or start taking their stuff. That stuff happens all the time. And the cool thing about John's channel is that he actually breaks it down so that like he doesn't. It's not just glorified like, hey, this is this violence. He goes through after and talks about, hey, this could have been done here. Could have been done here. This would have been avoided. And it's one of the things he says is attention buys you time. Time buys you options. So if you're paying attention, you've got time on your side. And then if you have time on your side, you have options to react to it. You know, so situational awareness is key. And so you don't really need a firearm per se to do that. But like everybody should actually be thinking about just being a little bit more situationally aware that, you know, when you're in a transitional space, you know, you're somewhat vulnerable. I'll keep talking this one last point, and then we'll get to some other stuff. But I'll sit in the car sometime, like Rebecca's in the store, and I watch people as they're coming out of the, you know, I'll be in my car.
That's the best.
And I'll just watch people, and you can tell the ones that are going to be victims and the ones that are not. Because the ones that are not are going to be having their head up and they're walking with purpose. And then you see other people that are distracted by something and they're on their phone or they're doing something. And that's what a criminal is going to see as well. They're going to say, that's an easy mark. And they're going to come up, take their purse or take their car keys or do whatever. It's that person that provides that challenge to them where they might say, well, maybe I'll go over here. And it's just stuff like that. Right.
I'm 100% with you. Yeah, your situational awareness will get you out of more fights than most people know. I mean, I have really tried to implement that into my life over the last decade as best I can. So my wife knows, per se, like if I go into a restaurant, she knows exactly generally now where I want to sit. She also will do, you know, always have my back to the corner wall or something and be able to watch everybody. She knows how stressed I get going to places with a lot of people because I'm looking at hands and looking at body demeanor and sizing people up. And it's just how I am and who I am now. Yeah. So I have to be really cognizant of like where I go because I'll actually get like mental fatigue from watching so many people. Disneyland, like I'm smoked by the end of the day. Just because I'm watching, I'm scanning. Who's that guy? What's that guy? You know, could I take this dude? Oh yeah, that guy's right-handed. Why did that guy go and pay right there? Oh, that guy just stole from that person. You know, I'm the stuff that you see is unbelievable. But you know, like our devices are the biggest distraction, and they get more people in trouble than anything now. And if you could just put that in your pocket, I think it would be a great goal for everybody in the nation to, you know, there's like the screen time, like how much screen time you have during the week. That Apple gives you at the end of the week, they give you like a screen time notification. If you could lower that by like 2 or 3 hours a day, because some people do 4 hours on their phone a day of screen time, that would be huge. I mean, you're already making yourself more aware right there. But yeah, just especially in a vehicle, being in a vehicle that's like not locked with your seatbelt on, that's a bad call. And especially the vehicle's not running. And you're just sitting there staring at your phone with your seatbelt on, you are in so much trouble. If a guy wanted to mark you and come take your stuff, he could, no problem, because you're already locked into the car, you know? So yeah, there's a lot with situational awareness that will keep you alive. It's even more prevalent if you have the option for deadly force and you're carrying that every day. You really need to be up on it because now you're retaining something that you don't want other people to have. So you really need to be up on that. See who's following you and things like that. Because there are people watching. Believe me, everybody you know and everyone, you know, your wife knows has been watched by somebody who's a predator at some point in their life. And it's just something that your demeanor can really push that away, especially if, you know, you have upright shoulders and you're looking at people and you say, hey, look, I see you with your eyes. You say, hey, how's it going, man? How's it going? They know that you're up and you're aware and you're probably not the guy to be in a fight. You know, so I think it's huge. It's really big for me.
Yeah, I mean, we both carry when we go out in public. We both, have concealed carry weapons
Yep.
permits, and we both carry like daily. So, obviously that's the last resort. The last resort to protect yourself against some, lethal threat with lethal force. I mean, that's the last resort, and so
It is.
nobody that carries a gun like that is looking to get into that. So it requires you to just be a little bit more in tune to your situation, and just awareness is very key. Another thing I wanted to kind of transition into from that is just that I personally carry every day some less lethal tool with me. And I think that's, at least for me, that's an important thing. I think I'm far more likely to engage a less lethal tool, which is available to a lot of other people, that may not have the ability to conceal carry a weapon. They, a lot of people can gather that sort of thing, and it's legal where they live. So I carry that, and I don't know, what's your take on less lethal?
I think less lethal is really, really smart. We also have to understand that if you're dealing with multiple attackers and not just one, that's where less lethal starts to become this thing that is like actually can escalate a situation compared to de-escalating it. I think pepper sprays and stuff like that are super solid. But how often do you get to train with that? You know what I mean? How often have you been pepper sprayed yourself? There's a lot that people don't understand. And if you have someone who's firmly intent on hurting you, then they might be able to work through it. But I am a big fan of being able to de-escalate and then just use something that's a little bit less lethal. Stun guns and stuff are really good. You have to also think about the legalities and lawsuits that can come after that. I personally don't carry less lethal on me, but I do train jujitsu 3 times a week. And I'm pretty big into martial arts and stuff. And then I also kind of walk around with a different type of demeanor. I'm 6 foot, 220. I think the de-escalation comes from me sizing up a person, and then also my managing unknown contact skills, which is my muck skills, and being able to not even get to that point with a person. I'd rather throw my wallet down on the ground and run away than have to deal with spraying a guy in the face or what have you, and then having to deal with the after effects of using my pepper spray or whatever. But yeah, less lethal is a huge thing. And obviously the lethality that we bring with carrying a gun is very, very like last ditch thing. He has to have intent and the ability to actually to inflict deadly force on me for me to actually use my gun. Right. But unfortunately, bad guys are generally lazy and will go that route before anything else. They might pick up a brick or a crowbar or a knife, or you know what I mean. They're not going to go less lethal against you. So less lethal really only comes in my mind, when there's a disparity of size. So like say like a young woman and a big, tall, heavy set guy who's trying to fight her. That's where I see less lethal becoming a thing. You know what I mean? But for me as a young man who's, pretty good size and can handle myself in grappling and things like that, I think my demeanor and my muck skills are actually what I'm going to lean on the most. But yeah, 100%. If you live in a country or a state where less lethal is the only option you have, then yeah, I would definitely do it, because options are way better than not having any options at all. But
and make no mistake, make no mistake, none of this stuff is a for sure, right? So it's just it's another tool in our toolbox. So even if you have a firearm, it may not provide the result you're looking for. So less lethal, same thing. Any of these things are the same potential outcome, which is not in your favor. But it's also very important to go back to all of these things, talking about that situational awareness and being able to manage those unknown contacts. So
that's a really big thing. There's a great book, and I recommend it every time I talk to people. It's called Verbal Judo. It's written by a law enforcement officer back in the early 90s, I believe, maybe even late 80s. And he did seminars for law enforcement all across the country at different police departments and sheriff's departments. And it is extremely, extremely good book. And it's probably one of my favorite books on actually de-escalating situations and being able to read people and then throwing curveballs into a conversation. Like, for instance, a guy comes up to you and he's wanting money, he's yelling at you, being really aggressive. And then you just throw a curveball at him and say, hey, where'd you get that shirt? That is a good looking shirt, man. That's got those pineapples on it, just like my grandpa's shirt. And that guy's
Like,
Luke
what?
just starts going, what are you talking about? My shirt, And now we're not talking about him robbing me. We're talking about the shirt, and maybe we'll be friends, and maybe I'll give him $5. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can change that situation right off the get go without ever having to escalate it any further than that, because it's really easy to be the tough guy, like, hey, back off, man, get out of my face. And then that guy's going to come back with that same aggression. But if I can come back with a soft answer, and maybe direct that conversation somewhere else, it's a big deal. A story about that: I was approached at my jujitsu gym by about 5 guys that were really up to no good. They look like they've been out like on a burner all night, and they look like a pack of coyotes. No joke. I mean, this is how these guys are, just scoundrel looking, And I was on the back of my pickup tailgate tying my boots on, and I just got out of jujitsu, and these guys must have not seen the sign or something. And they came walking up to me, hey man, you got money? And they're just like it wasn't like you got money. It's like, you're going to give me money, with that kind of a question,
Yeah.
And I go, I don't have any money. I'm putting on my boots right now so I can go work and make some. And you got any cigarettes? They're real mad at me, right? And I go, no, I don't got any cigarettes. I don't smoke, so I can grapple here. And I point up at the sign. And those guys all looked up at the sign, and they literally just walked away, just gone,
Yeah.
And it was just funny, but I just thought, hey, I could direct them to what I do. And here's my sign. And then I've got 18 guys in there that will come smoke you if you mess with me, which is just funny, but it's cool that, that's from reading different books and doing a couple different, skill set workshops on that kind of stuff. You start to look at those situations different than, hey, I just have to defend myself right now. Here's my fist. Let's go.
Yeah.
There's other ways to get out of that,
Yeah. I think for me, I being a dude, whatever, right. You want to not back down from situations. And, in my younger years, I would have been that guy who would have dude bumps into you, and you're like, what's up,
Let's
dude?
go. Yeah.
Right.
But
especially when you carry, you need to be aware of that. You need to try to de-escalate any way that you can, man. If somebody bumps into you, be the guy that is willing to back down and say, hey man, my bad. Sorry, dude. I didn't mean it, or whatever. And start to try to de-escalate from the start instead of looking at a guy wrong. I don't even like making a eye contact with somebody who's sketchy, because that can trigger a response.
Totally.
That's negative, so you just want to try to avoid that stuff at all costs. And I think that if a person's, tuned into that and is willing to understand, it's not worth it, to get into some verbal confrontation, or it's going to lead to an altercation.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, man.
Yeah. We're all just trying to last, and the world's getting so wild now, and everybody seems to be upset about something. Everybody's a victim, so yeah, if you can just kind of learn how to play the field just nice and even, and cut across there where you're not really bumping into anybody, or not trying to be too aggressive. And there's a time and place for that, but it's not generally if you're carrying a gun and just trying to get your groceries and get your family home. It looks like we got a comment. Fred Thompson, Verbal Judo. That was the author's name. I wasn't coming across it, so that's awesome. Very cool.
Right on.
Good job, Wave Storm. Well.
Yeah, I can't see it. It's covered up by something, but
okay.
Right on.
Yeah, that's cool.
So hey, on your jiu-jitsu, man, how long you been training actually? How many years?
So this February will be 5.5 years. And I started when I was 25. I drove by the jiu-jitsu gym in Reading. I drove by there 3 times and got too nervous to walk up to the door. Because the entry into jiu-jitsu is a point where you have to put your ego to the side to step in the door, because everyone in there is going to murder you. I mean, just destroy you. And you have to put away that male chauvinistic, I can fight, no problem. I know how to do it. I was born this way. And that was hard for me. I was always been a kind of like a bigger guy and thought I was somewhat tough. And I don't know if it was from my upbringing or what, but I had to go in there and I got a little pamphlet, and my wife still remembers me walking up there and being all nervous and stuff. And then I went and started doing it when I turned 25, and now I'm 30 and some change, and purple belt now. And I train 3 times a week at 6 a.m. I wake up at 4:30, drive to Reading, and train up there under Tanner Rice, which is the Rice Bros gym. If anyone ever wants to look it up, he's a pretty awesome jiu-jitsu practitioner. And jiu-jitsu has really, really changed my perspective and given me a confidence like you can't believe. I've gotten to roll with a bunch of different people, a lot of good people. What started the jiu-jitsu journey for me was I took a class with a man named Craig Douglas of ShivWorks, and he teaches edge weapons and firearms in a grappling context, so close quarters. He also teaches managing unknown contacts, muck skills, but then it collides when those muck skills fall apart and this guy just wants to fight. Then it's like arm's length. I'm grappling over this firearm or knife or what have you. And I didn't have jiu-jitsu when I took that class, and I got beat up. I had my gun taken away from me. I had my knife taken away from me. And these were all sim knives and sim guns. And just lost a lot. And I was very humbled. And so knowing how to grapple is huge, because it's just something that you do automatically once you've done it enough. So say I get on the ground, I'm automatically going to do what I need to do to get back up. And that's really huge. And it's something I can carry with me everywhere. I can carry it on a plane. I can carry it into the White House. I have it. It's, you know what I mean? It's my thing, man. You know what I mean?
You don't need a permit for that, right?
I don't, you know what I mean? And what's funny is like you can go buy a purple belt or a black belt on Amazon for like $15, but it doesn't mean anything. It's all right here. Yeah. And then it's your time on the mats, you know. What it's taught me is I'm sure with you and stuff, it's kind of taught with like your running. It's kind of taught me and you how to suffer, you know, and how to like overcome a big challenge. Yeah. And there's times when I'm literally so tired on the mats, I know I can't move anymore, but you keep going and you find that threshold. So huge jiu-jitsu guy, and I love it. And I'll do it the rest of my life for sure.
Right on. So let me ask you this. First off, when did you get your purple, man?
I got my purple actually pretty early on. So I got my purple two years ago in February, or maybe a little more than that. Almost 3 now. Yeah, maybe almost 3 years. But I zipped right through blue belt. I don't know why, but I got my blue belt and I was just smoking purple belts left and right. And then my gym is based on your ability. And so he comes up and he just threw a purple belt on me one day, and I was just like wanted to cry, obviously. Right. And I've been steady as a purple belt. And jiu-jitsu, you go through like these highs and lows all the time, and that's just part of it. So like there's some weeks where you're just getting beat up by everybody, and that's also part of training in the same pool as well. You know, guys start to learn your game and things like that. But yeah, been a purple belt now, probably close to 3 years, and just love it to death. It generally takes someone to get to black about a decade, generally. So
yeah,
maybe.
So it's kind of an intimidating thing, and I want to ask you this, because there might be some people who'd be interested in going to a gym and working out. What would it be like if somebody showed up at your gym that was a white belt, had no idea what's going on? What could they expect?
It's funny that you asked that. I'm actually, I think it's probably just because of my personality. I'm the entry guy. So if someone comes into the gym, my black belt my guy doesn't really talk to them. He just kind of makes them sign a waiver. And then I come up and I say, hey, I'm Brady. I've been here this long. Talk to me if you got problems. This is what we do. And I've just kind of fallen into that role as almost kind of like the housekeeper. And I enjoy it. It's very much my role that I do at our family business too. But yeah, I'll bring a guy in. I'll show him different moves. Show them the basis of what we do. A lot of we've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu together. The basic stuff, here's guard, here's side control, here's half guard, here's mount, here's why we do this, here's how if it's advantageous or if it's not, here's how we get up off the ground. And that really changes people and how you bring them into jiu-jitsu, because it's kind of like a awkward thing. You're like, wait, I'm going to let this guy try to like smother me to death and he's going to try to kill me for the next 3 minutes,
Yeah, right.
And make no doubt about it, we're simulating murder. It's I mean, it's kind of a messed up thing when you look back at it, but it's great because you're really learning to fight under pressure. And pressure makes diamonds, man. So it's one of those things I love.
So would you go hard on them, or how? Like say somebody's
depending on the guy. So I gotta read the guy. If there's a guy that comes in cocky and he thinks he's just doing this like on a whim, oh, this is jujitsu, it's lame, and I'm a collegiate wrestler, right on. You're right up my alley, dude. Especially if you're a wrestler, like awesome. You might take me down, but we will get to do some jujitsu, and that's no problem. I'll go tough on that guy. But like you're a female who just got out of an abusive relationship, I'm obviously going to approach that a little different. Hey, here's what you can do if a guy's on top of you. You can choke him right here. It's pretty cool, huh? Yeah, this is cool. We'll come back next week. We'll do a different one. And you start building things like that. It really depends on the person. I've had a guy come into our gym who kind of like, I guess you could say, took under my wing in the gym. And he was being bullied by his neighbor. He's a small statured guy. And people were this guy was just really scared about his neighbor, and he wanted to take jujitsu to defend himself and build up a little bit of strength, in his heart. And he left. He only did about 6 months with us, but that, I guess, the bullying stopped. Like, dude got squared away, and he's a little guy, but we taught him that little guys, that doesn't matter. Jiu-jitsu is all about leverage.
Right.
I mean, I routinely get my butt kicked by a 140-pound black belt, and he's awesome. If you ever guys, I mean, he's amazing. And, I've got almost 100 pounds on the guy, and he can smoke.
Dude, that doesn't even seem possible. How does that even work? He must be just like a spider on you.
He's amazing. He's like a spider. Yeah, no, 100. That's exactly what it is. He'll use leverage and leg ties and flip me over and then hop up on the back and go for the choke.
You're a big dude, man. You're a big dude.
Yeah. I could literally throw the guy across the room, but he'll hold on to me and he won't let it happen. He'll armbar me right there. I mean, it's amazing what knowledge base you can get with that. Now, when it comes like hitting, maybe that's a little different. Maybe if I hit him one time real hard, but I'm sure he can take a hit too. So I don't know.
Right.
It's just a cool thing.
Yeah. So martial arts is just one aspect of preparedness. It's another tool potentially in your toolbox to make you more prepared for dealing with personal protection. Another one that I believe is very important as well. I mean, I should probably, consider doing jiu-jitsu a little more so than I have at this point. And the only reason that I haven't is because I haven't made it a priority. That's the only reason you don't do things, is because you haven't made it a priority. Right. So it's something I'm interested in, but I've placed my priorities elsewhere. So maybe somewhere in the future I will. But one of the things that I really do think is important that people do and recognize is that they stay fit in some way. I like to run. I like that to get my cardio, and mentally I like to have that decompression time. So that's kind of my outlet for physical fitness, but also, other things, working on, lifting of weights and core and stuff like that. You got to keep yourself fit, because a lot of people in the preparedness space seem to think that they can just go out and get a bunch of stuff. But like, what are you going to do with that stuff if you actually need to physically use it, right? For any length of time, and you're just totally blown out. So
you're totally
we can all do that. We don't need a gym membership to do some of the things that are required. And so it's just, if you want to do something and you recognize I need to do it, maybe consider doing it,
Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest issue with prepared individuals is their lack of understanding of how important physical fitness is or will become if there is a grid situation or what have you. I've always had a struggle with like sugary things and stuff like that, and I should probably run more than I did. I did do cross country in high school on a bet. Not very good at it, but that's one thing I got to work on too. Like, maybe I should take a day off jiu-jitsu and run, I would love to get back into the running like I did. I enjoyed it when I did do it. But now, the fitness for me is cardiovascular through jiu-jitsu, which is a little bit of muscle exertion. And then we do a lot of leg stuff, because you're pushing people and lifting people. But at the same time, my mile time is probably not that great anymore. But there's a balance of it. But being physically fit is huge. being flexible, the ability to move your body is really the base of all of preparedness. You just being physically fit at the core will keep you alive longer in life. It's just it's just basics, you know. It also makes your demeanor, like we're talking about managing unknown contacts and stuff. If someone sees that you're physically squared away and you might be a tassel to mess with, they're probably going to leave you alone, you know.
Right.
But if you look like a day old diaper walking down the road, you look like someone who could be picked on, you know.
Right.
And I hate to say it like that, but that is the truth. And I see so many people that hail themselves as prepared, and then I look at their body mass index, and I don't consider them prepared. They just have a lot of stuff that someone's going to take one day, and that's just the truth of the matter. And if you can't defend it and be ready, then it's really not yours, you know.
Yeah, that's a very good point, man. That's a super good point. What would you do if you only had one chance to one gun? What would it be?
Okay. In a context, handguns are convenient, and in a polite society, they should probably be concealed. So I would probably just have my Glock 19. I carry it every day. It's my favorite gun. The gun I carry is my favorite gun. It's the gun I've spent the most time with. It's the gun I've shot the most of, because it's the gun that I may most likely be using, because guess what? It's on me, right? So that would probably be the one gun, if I could have one, that I'd have, because I can take it everywhere with me. I can defend myself with it. I can shoot stuff at semi far away now with our red dot sights. I mean, you can hit stuff 100 yards, even further, no problem. But yeah, I really think a Glock 19 you can't go wrong with. If I was a farmer and a homesteader, I would have some type of shotgun because you can put slugs in them. You can do bird shot. You can defend your home. You can deal with pests. You can shoot big game. Everything with just a single shotgun. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I would definitely go with shotgun for the home and Glock every day. You know, one of those two. You can't really rule out 22s either.
Right. What would you? Are you reading comments?
Yeah, I saw a comment there. Someone's like all mad at us.
We're getting, and they're mad at us. I thought this was about gardening. AR-15 or XD-40. What does that mean? I don't even know. Anyhow, if you had one gun and you're just an entry level person, kind of how would you approach that? Like if
my first gun.
Yeah, a person is like, well, I don't know which gun to get. Maybe I will.
Is it in a defensive perspective or like this? I just need a gun for my house, like a tool.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess an all around type of a tool.
All around gun. I think if I was at my house and you wanted to get away with like the most versatile of all the guns, like I said, a shotgun, because of ammunition selection, is really, really cool because I can do so many different things with that. If I was a female by myself, I would go with a 20 gauge youth model shotgun, because of the stock's a lot shorter and it fits females very, very well. And a man can pick it up and run it too. And they make defensive loads for 20 gauge now, and you could really defend your home and your garden with that. Deal with pests, especially with snake shot or whatever. You could do a lot with just that gun. And those are readily available in countries. And almost every state you can get a 20 gauge model shotgun. They call it like a quail gun, right? But some of those defensive rounds for that are really bad to the bone. I mean, really cool stuff. And you can get slugs for those and everything. And you could have this one gun to do a lot of different things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Nice, man. What's on the horizon for you out at the homestead? What are you working on, or what are you planning on doing?
So I really need to do more gardening and more garden beds and stuff like that. We had like a weird year where I unfortunately left one of our gates open. It was totally my fault. Went to go get a wheelbarrow, and I got 3 kids under the age of 6, and that just happened. I left the gate open, and the deer got in there and killed my fruit trees, ate my entire garden. I mean, like in one night. It was super frustrating. But that's like learning and growing and stuff, But what I'm doing is kind of using this house that we're in now as a test bed for different things and what I like to do and what I don't. And then what I plan on doing is on the next, we want to build a house in the next 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and really set that up in a way that I find that works. So I'm kind of like experimenting and learning what I don't like right now. But yeah, I obviously have kind of focused into the self-defense and firearms world and martial arts world. Love to get chickens at one point. I've done, giant buffalo for a while. We ran a herd of buffalo. I forgot to mention that in the bio about me, but I had a herd of bison for 12 years. So I've dealt with really, really large cow-like creatures. They're
Right.
just a little meaner.
How many did you have How many did you have at one point?
We had 100. We had 130.
130. Yeah. And what were you primarily doing with them? Were you selling them for meat, or what was the deal with that?
I was selling them it was an interesting niche. I met these folks from Los Angeles who worked at a farmer's market down there. And it was one of those markets that is like super routine. They like had one every Monday. And so it got the locals all love this market. And these folks wanted to sell organic meat products and things like that. And they wanted bison to be kind of their niche, right? So they'd come up from Los Angeles and get 5 or 6 young bulls a year and sell that meat down there. And it really took off for them. And they had it was kind of a clean harvest sort of a setup. So they actually showed how I took the animal in the field, how well the animals live day to day. And they used it kind of as an entry meat for folks that were primarily on a vegan diet. It was really interesting. And so I sold those young bulls every year, and then we would do a cow here and there, and that's kind of how we kept it going. I also did harvesting for locals, guys who wanted bison meat, especially because of the low fat count in bison meat. It's kind of amazing. There's really not much fat on them at all. They're very lean,
Right.
And people seem to really like that. And bison had like this big, everyone buying the meat, and then it's kind of dropped off lately. But I really love the animals. To this day, they're my favorite animal. I think they're very smart. Yeah, they're really cool. A lot of people look at them as something that's maybe like, how could millions of them been killed? There must be dummies. And at the same time, it is very true. You could literally put one down and the others don't really care. But they definitely have a sense of intellect that a lot of people, I think, miss out on. I really like that animal.
Yeah, man. I remember looking at those things it's kind of like people drive by, along the highway, in the freeway, and they look at that herd down there, and didn't realize those were yours, but
those were all mine. Yeah. They were a handful. I got really good at fixing fence, man. Let me tell you, because fences were just guidelines for them. But I would love to go into having cows and stuff. As you know, we have properties in our town where we lease for cattle and things like that. And I get my meat, my stored meat that way every year. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool. We just have different assets. And as my life is right now, where we have the family business and things, it's kind of where my attentions are. So I don't have a whole lot of time at home. Right. I'd love to be a full-time homesteader and stuff like that. It's just, not really in the books right now, but I'm trying to set it up where it could be one day,
Yeah. What's this here? This dude has a question or something on that bison. What does it say there? Something about they require less maintenance or whatever. You could address that.
Yes. So the bison require less maintenance. Also, with a steady source of water, they will visit once a day. Cows go more often. That's totally true. So we actually had a really bad drought, and this was back in like 2012 or 13, something like that. And we were taking at one point 7,000 gallons of water a day to our animals in troughs. And we had a reservoir as well, but this was just so they could have enough water. Mm-hmm. But yeah, bison in general, if you give them a reason to stay, they don't want to leave. The only problem with that is sometimes when they get into kind of what we'd call the rut, they will go through fencing like you can't believe. And I had a really good 6-strand barbed wire. But yeah, I love the bison. They're just great animals. And,
yeah. Did you process? But
yeah.
As far as did you wind up harvesting any of that for your own consumption?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We did one young bull every year. Yeah,
okay.
A 2-year-old bull, and that would last my dad and I an entire year. and we did a lot of burger with them. We'd actually add fat to the burger, just make it cook a little better and taste a little better because it's pretty lean.
Though,
it's
right?
actually kind of like it's a sweet meat. So it actually, like, if you would take like a lean steak and poured honey on it, that's kind of what it tastes like. But they're cool. They're really good. And we had several groups of Vietnamese folks come up and kill some, and it's amazing watching what they harvest. I mean, they eat everything. And they would eat it like that night, really, really cool to watch them process an animal and stuff. But I got down to where I could have a bison skinned, gutted, and quartered in 2.5 hours. And that was pretty good. It was just me and one other guy. And that's using a skill saw and things like that. And we had a front end loader to hang it from. So I guess that would be cheating. It's not like the real pioneers,
Yeah, man. Well, if you got it like that, you got it like that.
You got it, but it was cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that aspect of it. But when we sold them all when my daughter was born in 2016, and that was like a hard day for me. I legit cried. I was just like, there goes my babies, and we sold them to a ranch in Stony Ford, and they all went live. And that was the first time we'd ever put them in trailers. And you talk about like a wild fight. I mean, it was brutal. Sooner putting them through the chutes and getting them into the double-decker trailers. They fought us hard, but we did it. And
they're pretty wily looking animal, man. They look like they'd be like just a terror to try to like handle. I mean, I've handled cattle my entire life, so I'm well aware of what it takes to handle cattle. But and they can be.
I've been thrown twice.
But a buffalo, dude, they look gnarly, man, with that big old shoulder on them, and just they just look like the head's like huge, right?
They're very, very. They're tough critters, man. I've seen them go through fences, like put their head down and lift 8 posts out of the ground and let the rest of the herd go through. And I mean, they're really wild. I got thrown twice by them. I got thrown once cutting a bale. I was in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and he hooked me with his horn on my leg and tossed me. And you talk about being spooked. They're just a little spooky. It looks like a Shady Tree here said brought some prime rib bison from Wyoming 2 months ago. Very tender and sweet. Yeah. Wyoming's got, so there's actually 2 different types of bison. There's, which a lot of people don't know, there's a woods bison, and then there's a plains bison. So plains bison are the ones you would see in Wyoming and Yellowstone National Park. They have a really long body and a normal size head. And then you have woods bison who have a shorter body and they have a bigger head. And what happened is those bison, when they split up and the herds were all, killed off and stuff, and there was these bison that kind of developed a shorter body to plow through snow up in the mountains. And then they had these ones that kind of got a longer body out in the plains. And so there's actually, like, you can do genetic testing and find out what type of bison you have. And ours were sort of a mix of the two. So some people would say they were like impure, the bison aficionados, but they taste like a bison. But you can get now what people are doing. So be wary if you're back east. Heard many rumors of this and got to hear about it firsthand, that they are actually breeding. What's the cow with the shaggy white head that is a kind of like shag? Yes, they're mixing those with bison to get a white
or a Highland.
buffalo.
Is it a Highland or a Dexter?
Maybe it's a Highland.
Yeah. Go
so
ahead.
They mix them and then they sell them as the great white bison for hunts, and men pay $20,000 to go shoot a white bison, because if you have an albino bison, that's a really big thing.
I bet it is. I've never seen
so those. That's a big deal. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what, man?
Cool.
That's kind of interesting. Have you ever seen a white bison? Because there's a place over in Mendocino County, right at the summit by Howard Forest. It's the highest point on Highway 101. Actually, okay. It's the highest point on that entire highway where it crosses. And there's a place called the White Deer Lodge. And I wound up doing I did some time there in my earlier years in my job. We did some training there or something, and I never really put 2 and 2 together until I was commuting years later. And they said, "Oh, there's a herd of white deer around there." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, man, come on."
No way. Really?
Yeah. Seriously, dude. There's like a herd of white deer, and they are super cool looking. Yeah. And I saw them one time when I was commuting back and forth to work. I'm driving up the coast, right? And I look over and I'm like, dude, there they are, So I guess stuff
that's
like
cool.
that exists.
I love that stuff. I love that stuff. I actually got word, because we have our cabin that's west of town, and I have two friends that are smoke jumpers that I do jujitsu with in the morning, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh man, dude, guess what?" And I'm like, "What? We know about your dad's place up there, and it's really cool." And he's like, "Just over the hill, right by Mount Lynn." I'm like,
Oh
"Yeah."
yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, huge herd of elk that are being put in there. There's a huge herd of elk. I mean, how cool is that? And they're coming over, which is just they're up there, right there, right in the mountains. I would have never guessed that there's
Yeah.
elk up there, but there are. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
Pretty
What's
neat.
up, Chuck? See you in the chat down there. Chuck Peoples. He's a good dude.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Evening.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Right on, man. Pretty good conversation with you tonight, Brady. It's a pleasure to have you
Yeah,
on, dude.
absolutely. No, I like this stuff. I enjoy getting to talk to folks, and I've spent so much time kind of learning what works for me and figuring things out. And yeah, if you ever have any questions about concealed carry or whatever, I kind of live my life by it. Now it's actually kind of funny. I was looking at like all the holsters that I don't use now, and I have literally like a giant Tupperware tub of holsters that I've worn and didn't work out with, and
Mm-hmm.
then finally settled on what I have now, and
Right.
it's just funny. There's a lot to this stuff that it's all trial and error and just getting out there and doing it. But yeah, if you can't defend yourself, you can't defend your home, and then you can't defend your farm, and
Yeah.
it all trickles.
Yeah. No, I
Good thing.
appreciate your level of expertise, man. And it's not just that you are a guy that likes to buy guns and can talk the talk. I mean, I've shot guns with you, and if I were ever to have the opportunity to have to go up against you, I'd probably lose because you're somebody. No, seriously, dude, you've got it. You're a good shooter, and it shows in the amount of rounds you put through your weapons and the amount of time you take and the attention to detail you take in learning the platforms that you use. And
Yeah.
just it's a pleasure to train with you and stuff. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. And
Yeah.
to anybody
No,
listening,
I love it.
anybody who's listening, just understand that you training. There's no substitute for it, really. There's no training or there's no substitute for just the war game in your own head. We're talking a lot about preparedness tonight, and one of the things that I do, and some people might consider this like being paranoid or whatever. I just consider it being aware. So every store in my town, I know where the exits are. The ones that I'm routinely in, if I go into a public place, I know that, oh, there's exits in this store over here, and over here. And that's just being aware. You don't want to be someplace and have something go off. I mean, it doesn't have to be an active shooter situation. It could be an earthquake. It could be anything, and you just need to be aware of your surroundings. So it's very important, and that's part of training, right? Just being aware.
Yeah, that is probably, I'd say, a good 90% of it, because I was told by a guy that I trained with, the first time I trained with him was probably like 2015 or something, but he told me, he's like, we train for this little tiny percent of our life, right? This like little micro percent, and we have our whole other lives to make things up, right? So everything else in our lives we can fix. Our house burns down, we can build a new one. Our car breaks down, we can get a new one. Heck, you even get a divorce and get remarried. There's all these different things we can fix, and it can go wrong and we can fix it. But if you get into an altercation where deadly force is needed, right? If I get into that situation, it's that little tiny percent of my life, that 0.0001% of my life that I can't get wrong, or it's all over, right? So I train for that little tiny percent. I invest all this time into this little tiny percent, and hopefully that little percent never happens. I hope it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that I don't want to get wrong, because my family's life and my life as their defender and protector depends on that little percent going my way. Mm-hmm. So I got to train to where that little percent is going to be, pretty good, work out for me, right? Yeah. So that's where I look at it, and I just don't know if I could live a life failing to be prepared to defend my family when they needed it, because that is the sovereign role of a man at the base of who you and I are. Our sovereign role is to be able to defend and protect our families. That's really what we're there for. And then everything else falls after that. Fatherhood, sovereignty, taking care of your family, leading them, all that. But if I can't defend them, I got nothing. So that's where our physical fitness comes in, our awareness, our tools to be able to defend ourselves. All that is into this one big junction, right? And it's something that, as me being the leader of my family, I really take that to just one of those things, man. I wanted to kind of emphasize this while we're kind of coming up to an end here. A civilian can be very, very well prepared and squared away when it comes to firearms. You don't have to be law enforcement. You don't have to be military. In fact, the best shooters I've ever seen in my life and in my career of doing things are civilians. And the most squared away folks, because they can afford some of the better training. Whereas a lot of law enforcement and military, they don't get to pick what training they get. But we have this great opportunity to pick who we're learning from, to vet who we're learning from, and then go from there. And so that's we can really fine tune what we want to know and focus on certain things, and it's all up to us. So don't ever think because you're a civilian you might not be squared away and ready to rock and roll, because you definitely can be.
Right. No, that's super important, Brady. I'm glad you brought that point to light, and I guess it just kind of illuminates, everything that you just said just made so much sense. I was kind of laughing when you were saying that, because I just saw that I got my first porn spammer. So we must be doing something
there she
right.
is. Hey, you know what? We're good looking. We're good looking.
Right? Yeah, no, I guess we need I need to get a moderator or something. I don't know. Like, this is all new to me, dude.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get Teal on it. Teal's gonna get in there and start scratching them off.
Need to get some odds, I guess. I don't know what's going on here.
Whatever, it's all good.
Yeah.
All
hey,
good,
so what's your I see Kentucky Sustainable in there. What's up, man? How you doing, brother? And Tag was in there, so Shady glad to have you guys on board, man.
Life done free.
Glad to yeah, right on. So I know you carry every day, and besides your 19, your Glock 19, what's your most used? Well, I mean, that's not even something that's used, but what's your most used EDC? Because you're an EDC guy. I'm an EDC guy. I carry stuff like
as far as like a tool, like a tool in itself.
Yeah, I'm not talking about your keys or your wallet. That's EDC too, but I'm talking about a tool like a flashlight or maybe an
knife. Okay, yeah, 100%. So I have pockets full all the time, but I've really slimmed it down to things that just like kind of work for me. And obviously, if you guys like, I love a minimalist wallet, and you actually turned me on to the minimalist wallet thing. I love that.
Isn't that great?
But like I have this little pouch. This is actually called a Blue Force Gear 10-speed pouch. So it's like a kind of a stretchy Cordura kind of a fabric there. Yeah. And then in here is my most used tool. So there's just a regular old Swiss Army knife. This one has kind of cool special skills, like glow in the dark. And this I use every single day, all the time. And then on the other one this is my favorite flashlight of all time. It has a rechargeable, whatever the rechargeable AA size is. Can't remember the exact name of the battery. But this is from Meritac, so it's got a magnet on the back, and then it's got all these different buttons and SOS programmed into it. But my favorite thing is that I can clip it onto my hat and use it as a headlamp. And I literally use this every single day. And it's got a rechargeable battery. But these two tools, man, like for me are where it's at. I got my sack and I got my little light. And then, like I carry knives and stuff too. I am a knife nerd. Got to buy knives from a lot of people.
This dude knows knives.
I do like knives a lot. I like knives a lot. As defensive tools, I think they're great if that's all you can get. But just know that in court, generally most folks that would be your peers judging you are going to look at a knife as the bad guy's weapon and not a defensive tool. They're going to look at a gun this is in the United States. They look at guns as something that a good guy uses and a knife something that a bad guy uses, even though it might not be true that way, and it might be totally in your favor for defending yourself. Just the problem is, it's like I don't generally carry a knife as a defensive tool in general. But the knife I'm carrying today is a special one. I've been carrying this. This is my custom Ernie Emerson, hand ground by him down in San Diego, and it's got titanium bolsters. It's got a hand ground 0 chisel grind edge, which is pretty cool. It's like a chisel. It's kind of hard to sharpen, but this knife is the bomb. It's my favorite knife. I won it from him at a auction down at the West Coast Custom Knife Show, and it's just a really cool deal. Shook his hand and everything. It was pretty awesome.
I haven't seen that one yet. That one's pretty sweet, dude. I like that.
It's pretty sweet. It's my I take it out every once in a while and carry it for a bit. I'd be bummed if I lost it, but I love that one. And then other than that, Spydercos are the way to go.
Right on.
I love them. So
yeah, you just went to some training up in Idaho. No, did you not?
I did. Yeah. If you guys ever want to, if you're in the Idaho area, a great guy to train with is a guy named Bill Rapier with Amtac Shooting. He puts on classes all year long up near Boise in the Idaho area, and really an awesome individual. Very, very solid. Was part of SEAL Team 6 for a long time, and he's no holds bars on teaching stuff. I did a integrative combatives course with him, which was knives and guns together, and let me tell you, it was really great and very, very eye-opening. I learned a lot, and you talk about a violent guy. he really had it going on, and I enjoyed him a lot. But there's lots of great schools out there. I urge you to vet your instructors, make sure that they're really squared away, and if most of their classes are booked, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. If you got to wait 6 months to get into a class, that's probably a good thing. If the guy's got every weekend free for the next 3 years, that's a bad call. Don't go to that guy, because he's doing something wrong. He should have had a client base already beforehand.
Shady T says
anyone
to recommend near Sacktown.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Gray Ops Firearms Training is based out of Sacramento. The guy's name is Gordon Gray. I've trained with him at the Sacramento Valley Shooting Center. He's a really great guy, and squared away. I've taken classes with him where he was a fellow student with me, and he's solid. He does a very simple fundamentals pistol course, and then he ups it from there. I believe him and his wife are still teaching down there, and they are good. And if you look at other folks, a lot of them are kind of starting to stay away from California. For a long time, they were coming into the state. So generally now you're looking at like Southern Oregon, maybe Nevada, maybe Reno, or Idaho is where most guys are hit the West Coast. That's where they're kind of going now.
You mean for instructors?
For instructors, yeah. Because what I would do is at the beginning of every year, most instructors release their training schedule, and I'd build my year for that around those classes, and then I would set up the time frames to go take the classes and stuff. Now with kids, I maybe get to go take one class a year. Yeah. At Old McDonald, is it Bill Rapier, the Amtac shooting guy? Yes. Yep. That's who it is. Bill Rapier.
Yeah.
He is 100% the Amtac shooting guy, and he is bad to the bone, my friend. That's a cool guy to train with. I'll train with him again in a second.
You've trained with John Lovell a bit, haven't you?
Yeah. So I've trained with John Lovell on 3 separate occasions. I've done one-man room clearing with him and pistol 1 and 2, and then he came to our facility at Thunder Ranch and taught with Clint, and I got to hang out with him and his wife and his kids, and that man is the real deal as well. He is every bit as authentic as you see him on his YouTube channel, and even more. Very, very good man. Very good.
He seems like just a nice dude, like a
super nice dude.
Guy,
super nice guy, and he is funny, and he's very studious. So like his articulation of like books and things like that are solid. And if you're kind of up on like classic literature, he's like squared away, and he's super funny when when he's teaching. Which it just helps that knowledge to kind of set in when he's teaching and disperse it. Some guys are really dry, and that's where you kind of have to vet your instructors and stuff. And I really love John Lovell. Another guy I mentioned earlier on in the live feed was Craig Douglas. Craig Douglas of ShivWorks is your hand-to-hand guy. I can't recommend him enough. And if Shady Tree, if you're in Sac area, he is coming into California. He used to go to San Francisco every year. He's coming into California, I think in February, down in San Diego. So that would be the closest you could get to him, and he's worth every bit of it, especially on his managing unknown contact drills. Those are amazing. I learned a lot from him, and I've trained with him about 4 times. I really like him a lot.
Yeah, cool. Well, right on, Brady, man. We've covered quite a bit of ground there, I think.
Perfect.
I think it's been a good discussion with you tonight, and I appreciate you
Absolutely.
coming on. Yeah.
Totally.
Anything else you want to tell the folks?
That's it, man. Just if you wanna stay free, you got to train, man. it all falls back down to real skills. And it's just like earlier on, and tag saying that, skill sets apply to everything and how much you use it. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that comes down to firearms training too. It may be expensive, but it's worth the investment for the return. I'd rather be the guy that had fired 400 rounds and had 50 left at 400 rounds of training and then 50 rounds that I could use to defend myself. I'd rather be that guy than the guy that had only maybe fired 10 rounds of practice and had 400 rounds in the closet. I would definitely be the guy who expended that on the range and invested it into myself and my own skill sets, because it's very perishable and you'll lose it. So
yeah, and then just for anybody else, really, like just realize that even if you don't have firearms available to you, there's so much else that you can do.
Oh yeah,
to
go do
yourself.
martial arts. Yeah,
martial arts and just other things, other tools that possibly you can buy. That and then once you buy them, then you need to be able to train with them. It's just super important. And one thing that people wind up buying is they get the medical kit or they get the tourniquet or whatever, and then they never pull it out to actually train for it. And again, that's one of those things where you really can't get that one wrong. Like you don't get that many opportunities. If you're bleeding out arterially, that's going to be like game over in like 90 seconds. So you better have thought about it. You better know where that stuff's at, and you better be able to implement those tools in a way that's going to save you or somebody else's life. Because it's great to have a cat, Gen 7 cat tourniquet, but if you never pull it out and use it, or don't know how to put it on with one hand or put it on in the dark, those are just things to train on. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. I want to get on my high horse.
100%. No, but the medical, I mean, truthfully, you're going to use the medical more than you're going to use the firearm. Yeah. You're going to come across people who need medical help way more than you are going to have to use your firearm or your self-defense and stuff like that. So get some medical training. Everybody needs that.
Yeah, no, I want to get old Chuck Peoples on. He's a good medical resource, and I'll see if I can hit him up. Maybe I can get him on and have a discussion about some of that medical stuff, because he's a dude that knows his medical stuff. So
that'd be awesome.
Very important. So cool, man. We're like a little over an hour, and I just want to appreciate you coming on, and
absolutely.
Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm gonna go get with my babies. No problem.
All right. Have a good night, Brady, and everybody else in the chat, man. Just thanks for coming in and supporting us here and being a part of the chat. We'll see you next time.
Perfect. We'll see you.
Right on.